All right, so we're going to be going through the book, How to Do the Work. I think it's actually cool because maybe it'll actually be good timing, hopefully if Laura can make it next time. But either way, this is a really, really, really amazing book. This is a really, really powerful book. I would recommend if you look up The Holistic Psychologist on Instagram. She's got a really great Instagram where she posts stuff just about learning about the mind. And that's a lot of like what I'm really, really, really passionate about. When I came into sub 2, I just wasn't sure how to provide value, right? That's always kind of like everyone's struggle. How do I provide value? And so I'm not going to go into my bio or anything, but with my background, I studied sociology and psychology, got my master's in social work. I have a clinical license as well, although I don't like to do the diagnosing stuff. I'm not like a huge firm believer in it, and I'm not going to try to start a conversation about that yet. But this book is incredibly powerful. And as I'm kind of merging myself more into the world of real estate and entrepreneurship, and especially because of what Pace talked about with mindset. And he had quoted Robert G. Allen saying that 99.9% of the time when people fail in real estate, it's not because of a lack of information, it's a mindset issue. And that's really when I doubled down in my efforts to serve the community. And I actually had plans. I was like, I'm going to work on probate and pre-foreclosure, and like that's how I'm going to get deals. And I literally stopped all of that just to focus on mindset stuff. And I started doing mindset Zooms and all that stuff. So what I've come to realize as a professional in the mental health field is that when I step outside of it, the general society and our culture in America, we don't really fully accept mental health and mental well-being. Like if you talk to people, oh yeah, have you ever been to therapy? Oh no, I'm not crazy. Like there's still kind of that really terrible stigma, right? And so if I could do anything in this next season of my life, it would be really to drive home how important mental health is. And I'm going to get into it a little bit, but mental health to me is pretty much mindset. They're both tied into each other. And so for those of you guys that are not necessarily familiar with mental health stuff, I would just request and ask you guys to just stay open. I promise you that, well, I can't promise because you guys are the one that have to do the work, not me, but it is worth looking into. If you guys have deep traumas, it's not something where I'm like, oh, it's going to be easy, like, because it never is. No matter what, and doing the work, whether it's real estate and doing things that you're not used to or entrepreneurship, and you're creating habits. And very similarly in the mental health and mindset world, we have to create new habits if we all want to level up. And so I'm really excited to go through this book with you guys. So yeah, mindset and mental health, right? What is sort of the difference, or how are they similar? So mindset is a mental attitude, right? It's how do we respond and interpret something, right? So I'm going to always tie it back into real estate, obviously, because we're in real estate, but entrepreneurship as well. Most of us are embarking on this new journey of real estate entrepreneurship and wanting to do this maybe full time, or just really kind of like create enough passive income where we don't have to worry about our finances. We can create a legacy for our family, all that stuff, right? And again, that's why mindset is important, but I think we really need to develop a new mindset. And it's like every level that we achieve, we're going to have to develop a new mindset in order to get to the next level. And so this is sort of my desire for all of us, is I want all of us to really work hard on the mindset and our mental health and mental well-being, because that's really what's going to rise and help you get to the next level that you want to get to. So mental health is someone's condition. It's like mental health encompasses emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It's not just emotional. And that's the other thing too, is that, and I would actually even add physiological. There was another definition where it talked about that as well, but it's how we think and act and feel, right? And I hear a lot of times, and I don't want to say stereotypically with men, because I know that women also, depending on sort of what background you come from within your own family and your own culture, that mental health and talking about feelings is not accepted at all. And so I think it's really, really, really important. I think for those of you that didn't come from a culture or a family where talking about your emotions was accepted, this is a little bit challenging. And having worked with and spoken with many people, So my encouragement is just to like, if you're not really open to wanting to understand mental health, then I love that kind of mindset is a little bit of that doorway into mental health. So my request is just to keep an open mind to understand that they are very much tied together. And so mental health impacts mindset, and mindset impacts mental health. You know, and I'm sure that you guys have heard about like fixed mindset versus growth mindset, right? I was doing some research last night. There was a research article that talks about how when we talk about like depression and anxiety and just other mental health diagnoses and concerns, mindset impacts your mental health. When you have a fixed mindset, it'll lead you, if you have a fixed mindset where you look at everything like it's just everything is very limited and, oh, I can't do this, or all these limitations, you end up impacting your mental health, where you probably would end up developing a little bit more anxiety or depression because of it, because everything is just like, you're looking at it from a perspective that I'm stuck, or I can't grow, or everything is happening to me and it's unfair, right? I mean, obviously you can see how that would lead someone to have mental health issues, but mindset also and mental health also impacts mindset as well, right? So just, I think it's really important to keep that in mind again. And that's why I believe that this book is really powerful. Just in the very beginning, when she talks about, this is like even before the preface of the book, she has a note on doing the work, right? And she says, the goal of my work is to provide you with the tools and understanding and harness the complex interconnectedness. Again, that's a really, really operative word and really important word to understand about all this, is that the interconnectedness of your mind, your body, and then your soul. And this will foster deeper, more authentic, more meaningful relationships with yourself, with others, and within the greater society, right? So even like she starts off this book by just writing that to really help us to set our mind and understanding the framework behind this book, right? So again, we have to accept and understand, whether you believe it or not. Again, this is like my desire and efforts for all of us to accept that there is a complex interconnectedness of our mind, body, and soul. You cannot just say, I'm going to ignore my feelings, if you're not allowing your mind and your body and your soul to fully process it. I'm not saying let's dwell on the past. I'm not saying let's dwell on our trauma. I'm not saying let's dwell on anything, but I am saying we have to accept that they are all interconnected, right? I think that one thing that I hear often is either the past is too hard to go back to, which is completely understandable, but I think for something like exploring therapy, right, and finding a good one, I did a Zoom about really finding a good therapist, right? And I think that it's important to also understand and just kind of like, I validate everyone's feelings and perspectives of like, oh, it's hard, because it is really hard to go to therapy. When you kind of notice when people have a certain level of peace, like I always can guarantee that they've been to therapy, they've worked on themselves. Also kind of just comment on that, as someone who is a life coach and a mindset coach and all that stuff, like I will definitely say and differentiate that I don't do therapy in my coaching. And I described, Sean during my therapy Zoom had asked, what's the difference between a coach and a therapist? I think that the difference is that for a therapist, they are kind of like a physical therapist when an athlete gets injured, right? They're like really focusing on that recovery of like the muscle or the bone or whatever, the ligaments, all that stuff. They're focusing on helping to heal. Then they can get back onto the playing field. And then that's when the coach is really working with them to improve their game. So that's the reason why I actually really like coaching, because I like the action and the goal setting of coaching over therapy. It's really going to be like, all right, how do we create action steps towards, where you want to get to? So thank you for sharing that. The preface of The Dark Night of the Soul. So she talks about how when she was, I think, 30, she kind of had achieved a lot of what she wanted to achieve. She had created her own practice and lived in a city that she's always wanted to live in and dated the person that she is in love with, all that stuff, right? And then, but she still felt like there was something more. Also that she was recognizing that even physiologically in her body, there were certain pains or discomforts or different things in her body that it just wasn't going away. And there was a level of kind of like dissatisfaction or like knowing that there's something more for her. And so she goes to a retreat and it's just kind of like alone in her thoughts, and she just starts bawling, and she recognizes like there's still more work that she needs to do. She talks a little bit about how there's trauma with her mom, and with one that she had recognized that she never really thought that she was like her mom, but then as she got older and was paying attention to her behaviors and her patterns, where she realized, wow, I am a little bit more similar to my mom, right? And like that's when she recognized there was more work to be done. So I love this quote that she talks about. She says, awakenings are for each and every one of us who wants to change, who aches to heal, to thrive, to shine. With your awareness awakened, anything is possible. And so again, I really hope that if anything, like save that quote, if anything, right? Because I love that. And I bolded and, capitalized that the anything is possible, because the more that we do just a holistic, again, just like the book is, she's called the holistic psychologist, but like I firmly believe in holistic growth, not just growth of your bank account. Growth of your bank account will not guarantee that you're necessarily going to be whole when you come out of the other end. And so this is really my encouragement to do the work. This is actually the introduction of the book. And there's so much that I wanted to include that I just figured I'd just play it. So
all you need to begin this transformation is your conscious self, a desire to dig deep, and an understanding that change is not easy and the road ahead will sometimes be rough. There are no quick fixes here, which is a difficult fact to come to terms with, especially for the many of us who have been conditioned to believe in the illusion of the magic bullet solution. I will be the first to say that the work is just that, work. There are no shortcuts, and no one else can do it for you. It can feel uncomfortable or even downright scary to become an active participant in your own healing. Ultimately, learning who you are and what you are capable of is not only empowering and transformative, but one of the most profound experiences we can have.
And that's why, like, I think when I emphasize that it's hard, I hope I don't scare people, but I also don't want to paint it as, I've never said that therapy and doing the work, the internal work is easy. The reason why I wanted to kind of emphasize the whole, like, that there's no magic bullet. And I think that especially in our society, this, right now, where it's like Amazon, I could order something right now and it could literally come to me this evening. We want instant gratification, and the younger generations, no offense, but it's like that they're conditioned, you guys are conditioned to want it even faster. And so for me, like, I really want to just kind of remind people that, and the reason why I highlighted is that there is no magic bullet. And a lot of people are like, life hack, do this, life hack, do this. And it's like, there are practices, right? And you can practice mindfulness, and you can practice breath work, you can practice meditation, all these things. Don't look at them as life hacks, because it's not going to be this like, boom, I can just life hack this and then all of my pain and trauma go away, right? Like that, like we live in a society where we love to life hack things. And I'm a huge, like, I love shortcuts to things. When it comes to working through the deep internal stuff, let's remove that perspective or desire that it's going to be a life hack or a quick fix magic bullet solution. So I look at that, like, I think things get lighter. So I have gone through therapy on and off for the last, I would say, 12 years of my life. So when I entered grad school, maybe even longer, actually 14 years. So when I entered grad school and I was sitting in classes, I recognized I was actually getting triggered. So that's when I started my journey and was doing it on and off for the last 14 years of my life. So I do agree. But I think, again, sometimes like when we hit certain like ceilings or whatever, like it's always to explore it. I think the thing that I like to say is that the negativity and the things that weigh us down, to me, doing the work is kind of like, does the volume of those negativities and does the volume of those negative thought patterns and, fixed mindset, does the volume kind of decrease as you work on yourself? And that, to me, is a litmus test of whether or not therapy is quote unquote working for you, right? It's, you don't hear them as prevalently anymore. Yeah. And it's like, once you recognize that it's shorter, right? You're like, hey, wow. Like I had a coaching client that they're sharing something and I was like, wait a minute, like that's actually growth, because in the past, you would have whatever, right? And so it's like, but it was much shorter. And it was like, I noticed that they bounced back. And so that's the other thing too. It's like, we need to celebrate the growth as well.